Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Leslie Bergstrom. She is an empath, channel, urban shaman, and naturopath. Her work involves teaching people about their spiritual gifts and how to grow them for self-healing. Today, we will discuss the different ways people experience their psychic gifts, what soul aspect retrieval is, and who are the Seraphim. Leslie, welcome to the program.
Thank you, John. I'm so pleased to be here and have this discussion with you. I come to you from the future the next day in Australia, so that's kind of fun.
Where you are, it's actually morning. Here, it's about 6:45 at night. So you have a very, very interesting background, which we'll get into. How did you find yourself on the path that you're on now?
It's quite a long story, but I suppose I was very psychic as a child. I used to see things in people, and what really disturbed me as a child was that what I would see from a person, they wouldn't show that in their face. They would show something else from what I saw, and that really confused me. And I had some interesting psychic experiences as a child. I actually saw Anubis one night in bed. I didn't know who Anubis was. I lived in a small country town on the far northeast coast of Africa. We only had television, I think, when I was 10 years old. And so I lived a very isolated life. I also had an out-of-body experience at about the age of 7 where I saw my body from above, and it felt incredible. A few psychics have told me that I'm a walking. I'm still processing that information. At the age of 7, I had an experience where I left my body and I could see my body from above. I was awake. What I understand now is doing fixed eye gazing. So when you stare at an object, you can alter your state of consciousness. And the knowledge came to me. So a walk-in is when a soul leaves and another soul enters the body. So I've had 2 other psychics, without me saying anything, tell me that I could be a walk-in. And I have toyed with the idea. And it's interesting, we'll have a chat about the Seraphim because I'm still going through that process of understanding what that is.
So are the rest of us.
Yeah, it's really out there. It's really out there. And I still have to live my life, chop wood, carry water, raise children. And so, it doesn't change anything about living my life. But it's an interesting side note because often as a child, I just had this saying, I don't understand people. And it's like I've spent my whole life trying to understand the human being. And that's even the words that have dropped in. It's like I don't understand the human being. And so part of my passion in my sensitivities is being to really understand what it is to be human. What is the human experience?
It sounds like something a starseed would say. Have you any experience with that realm or not necessarily? Yeah. Oh, you have?
Yeah. I have in my shamanic journey when I was doing shamanic journey practices. I've had lucid dreaming where I know I've gone looking for home and I've gone out into space. And I actually had my power animal stop me from leaving. And what they said is that if you go too far, you may not be able to come back. And that did freak me out a bit. But I know I was looking for very specific star constellations. And I have used stargates in my shamanic journey before and come across realms. And it was kind of funny. The one realm I came across, it was really interesting that it had, those, I'm just trying to think what they call like the obelisks that they have. I think they've got some in Washington State, those tall states with the peak on top. I came through to a place that had those like guards, and I came into this planet and I was like a schoolhouse, and I went through a window and I went in, and this really strange being came up and grabbed me by the ear and threw me out and said, it's not time for you to come here right now. And I was like, damn, okay. So I had to go back where I came from. So I do resonate with other starseeds, and in my energetic work, I pick them up a lot. So a lot of starseeds have this kind of feeling that they don't belong, that they haven't lived many lifetimes here, and that they do try and understand the human experience. But I do feel we are all starseeds to some degree. I find it really interesting because I have a lot of Indigenous people come and do my courses. They seem to be drawn to my work that I do. And what I find that is interesting with them is that they've had other Earth lifetimes, but their ancestors are really close. And their energy comes more from the Earth and from within the Earth, whereas a lot of energies come from without the Earth. So it's quite an interesting difference in energies, if that makes sense. So a lot of my passion is to help people understand their energies. Yeah.
Because everything is energy. So when you just mentioned a power animal, which we've heard a lot about on the show, stopped you and said, don't go too much farther because you might not be able to return. I'm not saying it's not possible. I've just never heard that before. These starseeds and all the information that comes with that realm, has been coming up a lot lately, not just here on Closer to Venus, but I just hear a lot of people talking about it. Why do you suppose that is?
I definitely feel that the earth is changing consciousness. So a lot of the information I have been getting recently, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, and we've been through such an incredible time. Star seeds are incarnating more at this time because we are shifting the vibration of planet Earth. So it's not just a human consciousness and human soul that's evolving, but the whole planet is actually evolving. The whole vibration of the planet is evolving to a level where we will shift into a new dimension of being. And so I've been shown, because I work a lot with the earth energies, I'm really passionate about the earth energies, but it surprised me because I never even thought of that, is that even the trees and plants and the earth herself is increasing her vibration. And so star seeds are coming in because they ground energies from different planets and dimensions and realms. And so all of that energy supports the earth, and all of the souls, they all come to raise that vibration so that we can live a new experience of being. It's kind of like we're evolving that level of consciousness so that we can manifest more easily and come back to a higher vibration of being.
Speaking of higher vibrations, does that have anything to do with migrating from 3D to 5D ascension and that type of thing, or is it something different?
You could probably call it that. I suppose I always say we all poke the elephant from different directions. It's how everybody sees the energies or experience their reality from their perspective. I've tried to question that. It's quite hard to ground. What does that look like, 5D? You know, I try to actually ground that in a lot of my spiritual work. I'm like, we still have to live our day-to-day lives and experience our life from a grounded, practical perspective. And so what that looks like is becoming more conscious of how we actually manifest, of how we ground the energies of what we create in our lives. That old paradigm of that, you know, we look at life and experience life and then adjust how we behave. We're learning to kind of grow up that energy and really become more personal about the energy. It's really about holding our own energy, our own vibration, and healing our wounds and our shadow so that we don't hold on to too much darkness, and that we can stop them manifesting way quicker, all the good things that we want in our life. It doesn't negate any of the hard, heavy energy, but it's really about being conscious and really grounded and in our bodies about what is coming to us and flowing through us in reality. Does that make sense?
It does. Speaking of energies, what are the different ways that people experience their psychic capacity? How do they discover it? What are the most common means, in other words?
So I find a lot of people are empaths. So I call them kinesthetics. So they feel things. So they may walk into a room and feel the energy. So it's like, oh, you can often feel that. It's like crowd frenzy. You actually feel that physically in your body. It really hypes you up. And so people are not really conscious of it and how they experience. Some people are more kinesthetic, where they feel things and then they translate what that means in their energy. And they would obviously relate that to what they've experienced in their life when they feel an unhappy parent or an angry parent or a loving parent, you know, what that feels like. And then they may translate that into images or belief systems. Some people are more auditory, where they actually hear sounds and then they translate that into what that means for them, or they are hearing energies. It's all vibration. Some people are really visionary. So they will see images or pictures or get flashes of things around a person or insights. And some people have all of that going on. They are kinesthetic, auditory, and visual. And I find when I work with people, I often encourage them to plug into their greatest sense. And then I kind of laugh, by the end of our process, they're really having all of that evolved. They're learning the language, the energetic language of how they experience their reality. And it's really beautiful because you just grow the consciousness of that.
So you're talking about the clairs, the different sensibilities, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I feel we all have that. You know, they say the most incredible business people are quite intuitive because they feel into business decisions and what is right for them on their path. And I even notice, you know, in business, I'm a naturopath as well. Some of the most incredible business people are incredibly intuitive. They feel into their next decision, or they have visions about where their energy is headed or what they want to do next. They really trust their inner knowing, because we all have a vibration and energy comes to us and flows through us. So I definitely feel that we are all becoming more sensitive as well right now. And that is the challenge for most people, because you don't want to keep putting your hand on the hot stove. We are all used to kind of pushing hard emotions sideways. And when things are difficult in our life, the old paradigm is we've kind of really pushed it aside. I'll deal with it another day. And it's really hard right now because it's coming more and more into people's consciousness, things that are not working for you anymore, relationships, health issues, ways of doing things. You really feel the discord in yourself that it's not right for you. And, we have these old belief systems about how we earn money or how we relate to people, or how we have relationships. And the consciousness is coming up when it's really not in resonance with who you truly are. And all of us, everybody on this planet, we're all having to really come back to ourselves and really sit with the truth of those belief systems and how they resonate with us, and really connect with our hearts and our energies about what is true for us, and do that healing, like really release our parents and their pain and their pattern. And I find just consciousness of that is incredibly healing. Understanding the generation our parents were from and how they dealt with things, and how they may not accept the consciousness of something before they die, or they may. I had to sit with that at quite a young age. I even explained to my siblings who my parents really were. And it helped a huge healing in my family in being able to do that, because we have expectations as children of how our parents should support us, how they should guide our lives. And often our parents can't show up for us in that kind of way. So I find energetically, we are all gaining the opportunity right now to come back and rediscover who we are, to really sit with our wounding, to sit with our parents' wounding, our ancestors' wounding, the planet wounding, and really release that, help it grow us up, learn from our past errors and learn from the belief systems, and kind of redefine what is it that we want? What do we want to create on this planet moving forward?
Going back to your background, you describe yourself as a channel and
Yes.
an urban shaman, which I think is really, really interesting. So what came first?
I was actually a channel first. So I've been incredibly intuitive my whole life. I was always searching to understand my gifts, and I found it really hard to find people to explain that. And I was really lucky. I'm an immigrant to Australia, so I come from Southern Africa. I've been in Australia, I think, over 20 years now. When I first came to this country, I worked in a hospital, and I met a woman who ran a channeling group. So they would channel White Eagle and the Great White Brotherhood. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
I have not.
You've not heard of the Great White Brotherhood? And White Eagle is quite...
I've heard of a band called Great White, but not the Great White Brotherhood.
So the Great White Brotherhood are ascended masters who still come back into the earth energies to help support the evolution. White Eagle was channeled by, I think, a Christian lady. And it was quite interesting because he channeled information through to her through Christianity and the Bible. He would bring in lessons. And it was interesting because he was American Indian. So he would channel lessons to her about spiritual growth. My very first session with this group, there were 5 ladies. They were all incredible channels, and I was quite nervous. I literally closed my eyes, and White Eagle came and stuck his face in my face, and he had a skin over his head. And I actually thought I was going to fall off my chair. I got such a fright. And I know he was coming in to really look at my energy to see if I was ready for this. And what we used to do, we were guided through a process of literally embodying spirit. But our intention was really to embody light masters. So they are beings of really higher energies. They are teacher beings. They really come with divine love and energy. And the incredible thing about when you channel them is you really feel how they stretch your energy, or they squash you when they come in. You really feel the difference in energy. So it takes a while to actually energetically stretch, or I suppose they're adjusting your energy so that you can be a good fit, and that they can really channel clearly through you. And I found after a point in time, I started taking the group through guided meditations, which I know now were guided shamanic journeys, to really relax everybody, get their busy days out of the way, and to really help bring the body back to congruence so that these light masters could really merge with their energy. I really learned and understood about how everybody channels in a certain kind of degree, any kind of inspiration you have. Yeah, everybody channels. It's called inspiration. There's so many words for it in history, but it's about how much you allow that into your energy. So some people, I call them rotes. There is a great American author. He did a lot of OBE experiences. He called it a rote, which I found was such a beautiful way to experience it. So often the energies will just drop a bundle of information where you get a vision, you get a sensory sound, and you get a feeling. And it kind of brings in whole new insights. And that is inspiration, isn't it? It's a whole idea, but you kind of get visual, you get kinesthetic, you get auditory, musicians get sounds coming in, they hear that. It depends on really where your senses are. So with channeling, there's different levels. So some people really embody, where they literally check out. They step out of their body and allow the guide to really step in and speak through them. Their voice even changes. So when you look at Seth, I'm not sure if you've heard of Seth, he was a really deep trance channel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so some people are more like trance channel. Some people just, their guides are really close by and they literally dialogue with them. So that's how I began. And then I was really searching, I was channeling these journeys, and I ended up going to a workshop, and a beautiful channel did a guided journey to our houses in that. And my sister was actually with me at the time. And it was really fun because after that meditation, we sat down and started to unpack the meaning of what we got in our meditation. That led me to kind of search and find shamanism that resonated with me, because I'm from Africa and shamanism is quite scary. It's quite superstitious and it's really fear-based. And it made me realize like a lot of shamanism can be really fear-based. They use a lot of fear in Africa. It has evolved a lot. There's some incredible sangomas, they call them these days, that do incredible work. But yeah, a lot of deep African shamanism is really scary. They terrify everybody. And they have been known to even abduct children and, you know, use body parts for medicine and things like that. So, but then there's sorcery. They call that sorcery, you know, that all black magic. You have that everywhere. It's just about how you use the energy. Then I found South American shamanism, like Michael Hana and Alberto Velodo. I really resonated with their work. And I started doing shamanic journeys. And I found what I loved about shamanic journeys, it gave me direct experience of the energy. I could actually energetically journey into the realms. I could dialogue with what is there. And it taught me so much about who I was and how I experienced the world. That evolved to me recording those. And that's how I teach people about their own energies. I lead them into landscape. So I'm literally their guide. And it teaches me so much about their energies so then I can hold space for them to understand their own energies.
It does. So in your work, the shamanic journeys do enhance the channeling experience. It seems like they do work together.
Definitely do. I find I channel most of my journeys. My guides have a very clear intention. When I used to run group classes, I used to have the odd student that came and it was so fun. I have a beautiful student and she is Cook Islander and her grandmother arrived before my class even happened and she was so loud in my head and she literally directed her process because she could step into a leadership role in her community in the future. And her guides were really clear about how they wanted to train her. And so they would direct my journeys that I did in her training. And it's so beautiful to see what an incredible visionary she is these days. We've been working together for quite a few years now. And that's just been incredible. So most of my journeys are actually channeled. But I'm also quite an intellectual. I love to understand. So when I channel, sometimes I go deep, but I don't go very deep so that I can hear and listen and understand concepts that are landing because I learn from it as well. And that's what I really love about it is how much I learn too.
How did you learn about soul loss and soul retrieval, and what place does that have in your work and your practice?
Soul loss and soul retrieval, my students taught me. When I started teaching classes and doing guided shamanic journeys, I had some incredibly psychic women come to my classes. And one woman had even been through shock therapy in the 80s. And she'd actually lost half her memory because she was that psychic and they thought she was crazy. And so they had done shock therapy on her. And I used to run like 6 or 12-week processes. And she came to class the one day and she had a lost soul, a wandering spirit in her energy. And it was like incredibly clear. And she even kept saying, this person keeps showing up and I keep seeing them. What do I do? My guides really showed me, and I also did some research, but they showed me there is a process that you can actually do where you sit and dialogue. So because I'm a channel, we used to just embody that spirit and allow them to kind of hitchhike in your energy to speak through what is keeping them earthbound, if that makes sense.
So they are earthbound ghosts, earthbound spirits?
Yep. How I see that is that when we pass over, if we don't have a clear perspective of the afterlife or any kind of belief system, or if we die in trauma or fear, I feel like it's just an aspect of us. It's not a whole soul. So most of us returns to source, but there is a part of us that stays behind to finish unfinished business. And it becomes like a loop of energy, almost like a replay. And that's why like spirits will often be in houses or areas in where they died. And it was interesting channeling them. I suppose I'm lucky that I was in a deep trance that I could switch between what the soul was saying and what I was feeling. So I could also then explain to my students what was going on with them and how to process this, if that makes sense. I had one man once, he was in rigor mortis. And it was the weirdest thing because my whole body just went stiff while I was channeling. And it was actually quite hilarious. And I was like, come on, stop trying to stay in your body. Can't you see your body is dead? It is gone. It was interesting because he had no belief system or he hadn't even really thought about death at that stage. And a lot of people are afraid of it. When I could shift his consciousness, then he could see all his ancestors, everybody that showed up for him in spirit. There are always beings that come. in spirit. When a person has been through a lot of trauma, what I often find is that there is not much, and we really have to do soul retrieval as well sometimes with the soul and kind of call in energies. So if a person is Muslim, we bring in angelic beings. If they are Christian, often Jesus comes, or Mary comes if they are Catholic. If they're Indigenous, you always see the tribal members waiting for them. I've had like close family experience. My brother passed away. My brother committed suicide, and my father was there to greet him. I'm so incredibly grateful that I can do this work. So they are wandering spirits. And when we die in stress and trauma, we need help in clearing. And when you look at a lot of the Hindus, you look at the Buddhists, they spend time in doing prayer, in connecting with aspects. The gypsies had a process, they called them sin eaters. They would actually bring a psychic into the house to clear any of those residue energies in that part. So there's a lot of history in culture where they would clear any lingering energy. In Western culture, there's no process for it. I find there's a lot of wandering spirits in Western culture because there's no process for it.
What I also notice is that your history and your practice, a lot of it sounds like what a medium might do. So is there a crossover between the shamanic practices combined with channeling and mediumship?
Yeah, definitely. What I found in the shamanic process is, I always laugh. I say my guides lead me along like a stupid donkey. They literally dangle the carrot of the next thing that I need to learn. It is all just where you choose to connect with the energy. So it's like a rainbow of colors. Every color is a different vibration. So as a medium, you choose to connect with that realm. So in shamanism, there's different realms of energy. The lower world is the energy of this earth, and like the spirit of nature, the spirit of the animals, the plants, our bodies all belong to the lower realm. So it's that vibration of energy. The middle realm is the dimension we live in now. So it's past, present, future. It's that dimension of time. So what I find with wandering spirits and soul retrieval, that is all middle realm. So that is the realm that mediums work in. So they are connecting with the energies in that level. For me personally, because I'm so sensitive, I kind of made an agreement earlier on that I didn't want to connect with that realm. I didn't want to feel how Johnny passed over, his pain, his experience. You have to have quite a constitution to be able to deal with that energetically. And so then you go up from there. So then you have masters. When you look at Muji and masters like that, I kind of look at it as the tree of life. You start going up the tree of life in vibrational realm. And so even in shamanism, we journey to different layers up that tree. And so then when you get near the top of the tree, you start having the angelic realms, the light masters, and beyond that. Now you can even go up into outer space beyond that. So everything is literally a vibration, and it's where you choose to plug in to that realm. So with lost souls, and we even do that when someone has passed over. I had a woman, she died from a spider bite. And I sometimes journey to see where the soul is if they are in a coma, so that I can then dialogue with the spirit so they can choose what is next for them. So sometimes we have to do soul retrieval. It's a shamanic word, I suppose, and I really resonated with that. So soul loss is when we go through any kind of trauma in our life where a certain part of us has to leave in order for us to function and be okay. And so if you look at it as a child, sometimes it can happen through an accident. Like if you have like a major accident, because of the shock, part of your soul literally leaves. The unfortunate thing is, and how they describe it in shamanic practice and how I've seen it, is that when you've had like big trauma, like a big accident, the rest of your life is filtered through that perspective. Say when you're 5 years old, one of your parents disappears. You don't know, you're not explained to, they die or they just leave. You have a kind of a soul loss where you can't trust that you are supported or loved anymore, that person you really were loved and attached to. And there's no rational experience when you're 5 years old. So what happens, unfortunately, the part of you that trusts, that feels completely supported and safe, leaves. And so anytime in your life that you start having a similar experience to that scenario, it's like the 5-year-old steps up and relives that experience. And so sometimes you get irrational, emotional experiences where you can't explain why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. And that is soul loss. I look at it like a knot in your energy. That point is triggered. And so that part of you comes up again to be healed. But in traditional shamanism, the shaman actually journeys to dialogue with that part of you and brings that back and it reintegrates that as part of your soul. How I love to teach it is I like to guide people, mostly if they are capable, to do their own soul retrieval, because I find it incredibly powerful and they learn so much about their energies. And the more soul retrieval you do, the more present you are in your energy. So it's incredible. It's like you're more coalesced. The more soul loss you have, it can make people really depressed or anxious, really ungrounded. And then people can feel dead to life, where they just feel like they don't feel anything anymore because they've had so much soul loss, so much trauma that it's just not safe to be in the body. And so then the problem is that they're spreading their energy through different timelines. And so life just feels completely meaningless. It's kind of an abstract subject. I hope that makes sense of it.
A lot of it does. Now, speaking of the shamanism, because it sounds like soul retrieval is a shamanic practice, in your experience, have you seen past lives or perhaps even future lives?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the time, past lives can come up, especially when we've had trauma in past lives, or if you're having a specific relationship at this time and you had something happen in that past life that needs to be healed. Often, especially when I guide people through on journeys, a past life will come up. I always find it's perfect. Your guides always guide you to what is needed at this point in time. And often I find when you do soul retrieval, you always get what you most need. And that soul aspect will often ground the platform for more to return. Because each time a soul comes back, a soul aspect comes back, say that 5-year-old comes back that was really let down by their parents. When you bring that 5-year-old back, you have to then learn to parent that as the adult through all your life experience to this point. You then have to hold that 5-year-old. And when you experience soul retrieval, you really get to see how that 5-year-old looked, how they were dressing, what they were doing. And then when you bring that aspect back, you sit with them and you reparent them. So then you start hearing their voice more when they want to play more, when they want to be creative, when they just want to have fun or sing or dance or just relax and have fun. You have to start acknowledging what they need in order to be okay. And the more that you acknowledge that energy, the more that they kind of stabilize in your energy. The same happens with past lives. Like some people have incredible phobias of water or traveling or things like that. And when they gain the consciousness of that past life and what really happened, it really just dissipates. I find consciousness is incredibly powerful. Whatever we focus on, we bring energy to. And even sometimes just the focusing on and the awareness of something is incredible. We even do that with animals. You know, domesticated animals actually have greater consciousness than a lot of wild animals because we focus our attention on them.
Who are the Seraphim and why is that important in your work?
So the Seraphim are new guides that have just come through. It was really quite surprising. I went through major shifts July last year, and I love going to other shaman for healing as well so that I can really be nurtured. And a beautiful shamanic practitioner did some healing on me, and he started to open up my energy. And it was really funny because I felt them come into my energy, and they were like light serpents. They started moving in and out of my body. And as they moved in and out of my body, I saw them breaking off like almost like mud on like layers of energy around me. And they were quite joyful, and they looked like snakes, and they had eyes. All I could see was the eyes, and they moved incredibly fast. I always question anything that comes into my energy. Are you of the light? Is always my first question, because I only want to deal with anything of the light, and because it's of that vibration. And they were very clear they were of the light. And so I allowed them more and more into my energy. And as I allowed them more and more into my energy, they started to speak through me and speak light language. And I'm not used to channeling light language. My guides are very clear. They speak English. They're very explanatory when my guides come through, and the Seraphim started to channel. And it was kind of funny because I'm not a deep trance. I said to them, you better start telling the shaman who you are, because otherwise he's going to think you're possessed and he's going to want to clear your energy. And so I was quite amused. And so even I was surprised at what they said. And they said, we are the Seraphim. We are of the light, and we come to shift the consciousness. And he was quite surprised too. I was shocked because I was not used to this energy. After that, I started to just connect with them and ask them, who were they? What were they doing? I wanted to do that first before I started researching. I'd heard of Seraphim. I kind of know that they are of angelic realm. And so I thought, okay, let me dialogue with them for a while to really understand the energies. And what they showed me was that they actually are light elementals, which really surprised me because I saw them as angelic beings. When you look at like water has a spirit, the earth has a spirit, nature has a spirit, like a beehive has an elemental. Yeah. So it has a consciousness of being. And so they showed me they are the consciousness of being of light and what they are coming to do. So what they actually do is when we incarnate, our body is made of the earth. And when our soul comes into the body, it's actually the Seraphim who helps our soul come into the body before or when we are born. So our soul actually travels on their energy. And that's why there are many. I think there are 6 or 8 of them. And it really confused me because I know when I channel, I really feel the difference in energy between myself and the being that is coming through, especially the light masters, because they're such big energy. And the Seraphim, I didn't really feel a big difference between my energy and theirs. But their perspective is incredibly different because they are elementals. What I find with elementals, they are really clear in their purpose of energy. And the conversations have been so fascinating with the Seraphim because what they're saying is that they never used to be close to the earth dimension. They would literally help us incarnate. And then they kind of worked in that realms between when we die and when we are born, and kind of bringing light consciousness into matter more. But because the whole vibration of the earth is raising at this time, they are more present in our everyday life because we are really shifting. And they said whenever we have heavy, dark thoughts, we are light. So our soul embodies light into our physical body. And because we're raising consciousness right now, we are becoming more light beings. And when we have heavy emotions or when we focus on dark negative energies, the negative energies are lower vibration. And what it actually does, it puts like this layer of mud around our physical bodies. So it also blocks us off from receiving, and it really weighs us down. And they started showing processes, and that's why they were doing that to my body. I'd been through a really hard time, and they were coming in and literally breaking up all this heaviness around my body so that my light can shine, so that I can be more of who I am and really come back to peace with who I am. I had an interesting meditation with them even just about 2 days ago. I did a chakra meditation where I normally check in with what my chakras are doing. And they came in with an angelic being. They were the crown of his energy. And as I was going in and closing down my chakras, they came in like little snakes, and it kind of freaked me out a bit, but they started chomping all the chakras on the way down. And I was like, what is that? I'm like closing them. I'm making them whole and perfect. And what are you doing? And they were like, the consciousness is changing right now. How we experience reality is changing. The old paradigm is falling away. We really have to notice and become conscious of how we are manifesting, how we are standing in our energies, how the energy is flowing to us.
For the average person, can we assume that the Seraphim are going to be working a little bit harder to get all of our vibrations higher?
I definitely think they are around everybody right now. Maybe because I'm more conscious of them, I see them around everybody. And it's kind of like they are around whenever you ask, when people pray or ask for inspiration or ask for connection with love or healing. That is when they can mostly come in and help us. We are beings of free will. So we have that free will that we can focus our consciousness on whatever we choose. And we're getting that prompting more, like just shift that thought. Already, can you love yourself through that? You're having a hard day, you're frustrated. Can you really sit and love yourself? And so it's like you're coming back to that consciousness way quicker than what you would have before, where you could have gone into that depression hole for a year before. It's like that's really shifting way quicker now.
It's good to know that the angels are on our side, and even more so, they're trying to raise the vibration collectively. Definitely good stuff. Leslie, thanks for joining us today. In the meantime, how can our listeners find you online?
So I have a Facebook group called Journey Drum Meditation. My website is www.thejourneydrum.com, and I am known as the Sun Shaman on Instagram as well.
Excellent. I will put that link in the show notes in the transcript as well. You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. In the meantime, you can find more info at closertovenus.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.